Welcome to the Navigator podcast.
Welcome to Module 20 of the Navigator Academy. I'd like to introduce Brad Dempsey, CEO of Solutions 360, and the sponsor of this module of the Navigator Academy. I'm excited that you're joining us today for this discussion on key performance metrics. You and I have addressed the importance of this topic many times and in many conferences and workshops. Today, I'd like to kind of raise the ante with regards to selecting, using, and most importantly, managing to achieve the desired results. So Solutions 360 has been improving its dashboard capabilities within its Q360 ERP system, and the customers I've talked to are excited about the capabilities. So what drove you, Brad, to make these enhancements, and how do you see them being used?
Well, thanks for having me today, Bradley. I would say that it kind of falls into two areas. The first is really technology, and what we were really focused on is we want our customers, our end users, to have as much power in their hands to visualize their data the way they want to. So that started with what we called our live data module, which is really a way of users designing their own reports. So they're traditional Excel looking grids of data, mind you, with a lot of drill in information, but that was the foundation so people could understand the type of information they wanted to get at. The second phase of that was then allowing you to use those same live data reports that end users can create and putting those on workflows. So now you can visualize them within the workflow of your company. And then finally, we got our dashboard product to the point where we were really impressed with the features that our developers had added to it. So then it became a matter of adding those reports right into the dashboard. So it's the same data underneath, but it's visualized in different ways. The second aspect was content. And it's really COVID that started a huge push on content. When COVID hit, we really said to ourselves, it's cash that people are going to be concerned about right away. So the first thing we did was really try and expand our cash flow capability. And the second was, of course, labor capacity. It's understanding that supply and demand of labor, because that was probably the most critical aspect, especially in the early days of COVID, and trying to understand and manage what we're going to do in the future and how to deal with the situation.
Cool. I mean, I've definitely looked at them, and they're a far cry from what you normally see in what I'll call Excel hell. I mean, you can, I can't picture that, but when you see one picture and a lot of different graphs and slopes and different just ways to model the data and the information, it's been amazing.
Thank you.
How, when we've talked about managing to leading metrics and making proactive decisions instead of reacting to past lagging metrics. What are some of the metrics that you've really put into place for people, and how are they being used?
Well, especially from the leading perspective, I think we've talked many times about how important direct labor is to our technology integration space. It's understanding the two sides of that, the supply and demand. So the key metrics there really are, my supply is my employee force, but understanding it to the point of their availability. And that includes whether they have vacations, whether they have 80% utilization or 90% utilization, and their skill sets and what they're capable of doing. And then matching that up to the demand we're getting from our projects primarily, because we lay out our projects and plan them hopefully. And secondly, our service and reactive work that comes in. The project backlog really represents, that bulk of all that schedulable work that we can do. I would say another really important leading metric is invoicing. We talked about cash flow a little bit in the previous question. Invoicing, along with your DSO, that is how fast you're collecting those invoices, is critical to predicting how much cash you're going to have, at least from an incoming standpoint. And then there's one
of the paradigms you used was very much a collaborative kind of cross-functional view. Again, what's our forecast, what's our backlog, what's our utilization, and making sure the executive management team is in the room, not just sales looking at its little world, or different people looking at different pieces of the elephant thinking everything is great. How have you seen that impact companies in terms of just the collaboration of the executive teams?
Well, a lot of this really came to light because when we were introduced to Joel Harris a couple of years ago, he brought forth the idea of monthly management meetings taking on a different tact than traditional. That the goal is not to report the prior month, but to plan and manage to intended results. And that really got us thinking about the way we look at that information and who needs to look at it and when. So it is the management team, the executive team that is setting the course, setting the strategy for the company. And if they can look at the outcome of what that month is going to be, or multiple months based upon the plan, and if they can do that very quickly and easily, and then drill back to where the concerns are, that's where change can really start to happen.
Yeah. Again, yeah, guiding the future as opposed to, again, kind of missing the past. How, what are, I'll say, key prerequisites, or what metrics do people really have to tell the truth on in order to be able to plan proactively?
Well, a lot of metrics are fairly truthful. When we look at AR and things like that, that's not an issue. The ones that really come to bite you usually involve labor. It is, what are the remaining hours I've got to do on my projects? And not just as a bulk number, but by task and by project and by skill set. What are those accurate estimates of my remaining time? And then, of course, the inverse of that, which is we have to time bill against that as well. So not only do we need a good estimate, but where we see a lot of fudging or a lot of issues with accurately measuring, it's when I really spend time on a task or a customer or a call. A lot of companies don't want to book PM time, for example. They don't want that project management time tracked.
And I've had over the past year really stressed with people the paradigm shift between status, how much have I got done and taken credit for, versus progress, what's left, and what's the forecast, what's the gap, and what's my variance, tell me. And just that mental shift has just changed a whole lot of people's behavior to say, oh, it is about the end game, and it's the gap between now and the end game, and how many different ramifications that can have.
So true.
How does using key performance metrics either enhance or impact a company's culture?
A great question. I think firstly, they create clarity. It's one thing to say that, we're spending hundreds of hours on this customer, they're absorbing so much of our time, but to have key performance indicators that say, well, that's our most profitable customer. We're making, X margin and this kind of gross profit. And then the discussion goes from, it seems like we're spending too much time on the customer, to, can we spend more time on that customer? Now you have the clarity of the profitability of that customer. I think one of the other really important aspects, especially from a culture standpoint, is feedback. People want to know, what do you expect me to do and how well am I doing? And key performance indicators can take out a lot of the subjectivity from that. And I think that's a really important aspect.
I think, each person wants to contribute and know how they contribute. And when there's that good feedback loop, it's like I can get a whole lot of people causing different things to occur, which are in alignment, again, with our vision, mission, strategy, all those types of things.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. We always talk about books. Any recent books you're reading, and what are you learning from?
This one's a little different. I just started this book. It's called Observing the User Experience. And one of the things we've learned in the software world is that software is a very emotional product. Different people look at it very, very differently. And the premise of the book is that you can't just sit down and ask people what they think in a lot of cases about the user experience. You actually have to observe it. You have to get in the middle and kind of see how people react to things. So I've just started, but it looks like a really interesting premise, and I'm very excited about trying to use some of the techniques.
Well, with all you've done with the dashboards, it'll be interesting to see what this book kind of brings to the next level for Q360.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks. A pleasure as always.
You bet. Take care.
Take care.